Hello, good day. I am Freddy. Today, I will be presenting my research entitled Factors Affecting the Oversupply of Vegetables and Its Economic Effect to Benguet Farmers. In our country, farmers have the lowest social rank in the society, thus, only few Filipinos pursue agriculture as their occupation. Benguet is an agricultural community where most its people rely on agriculture as their main source of income. According to Philippine Statistics Authority Report 2018, 80% of temperate vegetables such as cabbage, potato, chayote, and the like are coming from this province. Filipinos were horrified when a farmer from Benguet was captured on video dumping tons of unsold carrots, leading them to call out the Department of Agriculture for concrete actions. Unsold crops are sold for an amount way below the floor price. Some are not even meeting their production capital. According to a farmer in a previous occurrence of oversupply, their earnings from a certain period of harvest will be their funds for the next 3 to 4 months, which is why we cannot blame them for seeking desperate measures to address this problem. According to Halton, 2019, oversupply is a situation where there is more product on the market than consumers want to buy. In commodities, an oversupply is a period when overproduction of a commodity pushes the price down to a level where the producers are losing money. When a price is too high, demand will diminish and the unsold quantity will increase unless the producer discounts the goods in the market or halts production. According to Silva in 2018, the factors that affects the oversupply of vegetables is due to lack of planning and new farm inputs. Drillin in 2003 said that it is because of the neglect to privation. Bulin in 2019 said that it is due to lack of fragmentation. Aquino in 2012 and Alcantara in 2001 said that the factor that is affecting the oversupply of vegetable is because of importation. Moreover, Aquino in 2012, Magno in 1986, Bawing in 1986, and Ailu in 2018 said that it is because of the farmers are getting less profit. As for the paradigm of the study, our independent variables are the factors affecting the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet, while the dependent variable is the extent of the effect of the oversupply. In general, this research aimed to find out the factors that affects that oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet. Specifically, the problems that was set for this research to seek answers are as follows. 1. What is the level of agreement of Benguet farmers on the factors that have affected the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet? 2. What are the latent component factors that affected the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet? 3. What is the economic effect of oversupply of vegetables to the Benguet farmers? 4. What factors contribute to the extent of impact of oversupply of vegetables to the farmers? As to the methodology of the study, the research design that was utilized in this study is exploratory and causal research design. The exploratory research design was used because this research has a limited reference and that there is no previous research that has been conducted. Causal research design is appropriate in this study because the researcher wants to find out between the factors affecting the cause of oversupply and the impact of the occurrence of oversupply. The sampling frame includes farmers of Benguet, may it be a conventional practitioner, organic practitioner, and good agricultural practices practitioner who are registered in the master list of the Office of the Provincial Agriculturist Benguet. The sampling technique that was utilized is stratified random sampling proportional allocation. The sample in the study is computed using the standard sample size formula for estimating percentage, or otherwise known as the Cochrane's formula. The estimated percentage in the population was set at 20% and the margin of error was set at 5%. The locale of the study is on the 13 municipalities of Benguet. A total of 246 were included in the study. This is the composition of respondents according to their respective socio-demographic profile. According to sex, the respondents are composed of 51.6% females and 48.4% male. Moreover, 35% of the respondents are practicing good agricultural practices, 33.3% are conventional practitioners, and 31.7% are organic practitioners. To obtain the needed data, a structured survey questionnaire was administered to the respondents. To check the reliability of the questionnaire, pilot test was established and was analyzed using Cronbach alpha. Wherefore, the computed reliability of the tool is 87.7% with 30 participants. Request to authorities was passed to allow the researcher to carry out the research. The purpose of the study and the significance of the data collection exercise were carefully explained to the respondents. The consent of the respondents was also sought. The respondents were notified and arrangements were mutually made for the data collection exercises. The statistical packages for social sciences trial version and Microsoft Excel application were used to analyze the data. Moreover, the data were analyzed using the descriptive analysis, principal component analysis, and ordinal logistic regression. At this juncture, we will now be discussing the results of the study. First result that we will be discussing will be the level of agreement of Benguet farmers on the factors that affected the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet. In general, the respondents moderately agreed on the identified factors and that there were factors affecting the oversupply of vegetables. This means that the factors enumerated in this study are prominently manifested in the locality and is affecting the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet. This also implies that the respondents believed that the identified factors are salient factors that affect the oversupply of vegetables in the province. Also, the analysis revealed that the level of agreement of the respondents on the factors affecting the oversupply of vegetables is significantly different from the hypothesized value of 5, which is interpreted as slightly agree. Hence, the hypothesis is rejected. Based from the results, the level of agreement of the respondents is higher than that of the hypothesized value. Precisely, the respondents perceived that the top-ranked factors that affect the oversupply of vegetables is due to massive importation. Imported vegetables are lower in price than that of the locally produced crops, and imported vegetables have a better quality than that of the locally produced crops. These top-ranked factors was described as moderately agree. This suggests that the respondents moderately agreed that importation causes the oversupply of vegetables. This also implies that the massive importation is a pertinent factor that causes the oversupply in the highland. Massive importation pertains to the entry of vegetables produced from other countries. However, most of these vegetables were cheap and of better quality than the highland-produced vegetables. Thus, consumers tend to buy an imported vegetable that leads to the oversupply of highland vegetables. On the other hand, the respondents have a lower level of agreement on the variables, namely, natural calamities, tropical depression. Farmers do not appreciate new innovations in farming, stunted crops, low-quality crops, fear of consumers to eat vegetables because they know that lots of chemicals are used on the vegetables, natural occurrence. Crops in Benguet are seasonal, excessive farm due to conversion of forest to farm. Next result is the component factors that affects the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet. Before we can proceed with the analysis, there are some assumptions that we have to look into. This includes the Kaiser-Meyer-Olkins measure of sampling adequacy and Bartlett's test of sphericity. Results show that patterns of correlations are relatively compact as indicated by the KMO coefficient of 0. This means that the analysis can produce distinct and reliable components from the various variables. Results also show that the data are adequate and their proportion of variance is quite high. There are 6 extracted components from the 50 enumerated factors. These components were not further reduced and that no statements were removed because it passes the assumptions on correlation matrix, anti-image correlation, commonalities, factor loading as well as eigenvalues. The cumulative percentage of the 6 components which was extracted is 84.61%. This means that the extracted components explain 84.61% variability in the data. Thus, the variability among the factors are said to have a high variability. This also indicates that the data of this study is adequate. The number of principal components was identified through the eigenvalues are the variance accounted for by each principal component which is plotted from largest to smallest. The components whose eigenvalues are above the elbow of the plot were extracted. There were 6 extractable components in the scree plot since the components to be extracted are the data points that are above the elbow or on the sudden drop of data points. The next results that will be presented are the 6 components that are extracted. Component 1 is composed of 12 factors and was found to be reliable with 98.3% computed Cronbach alpha. This suggests that the factors under the said component have internal consistency. This component is defined as farmers' attitude and practices because the factors that belong to this component deals with the attitude of farmers towards agriculture and the practices that they employ on their respective farms. The top 3 factors with highest factor loading were the thinking of farmers are one time, big time, crab mentality among farmers, and delay of harvest due to some other factors such as tropical depression, closed farm-to-market roads, unavailability of transportation, and the like. This implies that these factors had the highest contribution in this component. Benguet farmers are planting one type of crops massively as they thought of having a high income when they happen to sell their crops at a very good price. They do not consider its probable effect to the market. Some of Benguet farmers have a bad attitude and tend to be envious to the success of their co-farmers. Thus, this sometimes leads them to sabotage and destroy their co-farmers who are about to succeed. Finally, the delay of harvest due to unforeseen circumstances is inevitable. Conventional farmers in Benguet don't have a timetable or working plan on their farm activities. Consequently, they often wait for a better price for their crops before harvesting them. This leads the farmers to hoard or sell their crops earlier than the right maturity of their crops, which affects the oversupply of vegetables in the province. The variables having the least effect in the first component were stocking, holding the crops for a desired price, farmers plant the same kind of crops at the same time, and the farmers do not practice of crop programming. These results show that these attitudes and practices of the farmers had the least effect as factor on the oversupply of vegetables. Furthermore, this also implies that these factors are the least ranked components in explaining the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet. The second component was named postharvest and marketing approach. This is because the factors in this component refer to the activities done by the farmers after harvest and on their marketing approaches. The result also showed that the reliability of the factors under this component is 95.1%. Among the factors in the second component, the factors that have the highest effects on the oversupply of vegetables are no or not enough storage or cold chain facilities, no processing centers of vegetables, and due to low buyers, low demand. This implies that having no or not enough postharvest facilities and low demand on vegetables can bring havoc on the agriculture industry. La Trinidad Trading Post, Benguet Cold Chain and Benguet Agri-Pinoy Trading Center are the vegetable trading facilities in Benguet. Among these trading facilities, only Benguet Cold Chain and Benguet Agri-Pinoy Trading Center have cold chain facility to preserve the vegetables. With this, the existing cold chain facilities are not enough to cater to the tons and tons of vegetable production of the province. Occurrence of oversupply of vegetables and low demand in the province may be inevitable. However, processing the vegetables into a new product can solve this annual problem of the province. Benguet is lacking training and processing centers to cater to this problem. Moreover, there are only few programs and trainings to the farmers. As a result, the farmers don't know how to process their crops when oversupply occurs. In addition, the farmers are massively producing only one type of vegetable and are not complying with the crop zoning, which is greatly affecting the oversupply of vegetables in the province. The lowest variable that has the least effect in the second component are lack of planning on the farm activities from land preparation to marketing. The farmers do not listen to the advice of their agricultural technicians as to the quantity of vegetables that they will plant, and lack of cooperation among farmers. These factors are said to have the lowest rank in this component to explain the oversupply of vegetables in the province. Component 3 was named Perceptions in Agriculture, Traditional Farming and Natural Occurrence Phenomena. It was named this way because the variables in this component are connected to perceptions, traditional farming and natural phenomena. The reliability of among the factors is 97.8%. The highest factors that have a great effect in component 3 are disregarding the hard labor of farmers, fear of consumers to eat vegetables because they know that lots of chemicals are used on the vegetables, and natural calamities, tropical depression. This implies that the aforementioned factors affect the occurrence of oversupply in the province. Disregarding the hard labor of farmers means not patronizing their farm produce and no support from individuals, government, NGO, and the like. Local consumers prefer buying imported commodities than that of the locally produced products. As discussed earlier in this research, there is a decrease in the number of farmers. If this continues to decrease, who will produce as food then? If there will be a rapid decrease on the number of farmers, then the demand for food will increase, thus the prices of commodities increases as well. By patronizing the local farmers, we did not just help them economically but also development in the agriculture industry. One factor that causes the decrease on the demand on vegetables is the traditional way of farming. The farmers want to produce a pest-free crops, thus they use pesticides, insecticides. This practice entails health issues. Moreover, natural calamities are inevitable. Benguet farmers are trying to update themselves to the tropical depressions which are entering the Philippines area of responsibilities. However, the tropical depressions are sometimes taken advantage by the farmers. If the farmers happen to deliver the same crops in the trading centers, they flocked and oversupply occurs. On the other hand, the lowest factors that have the least effect in component 3 are excessive seeds, seedlings, stunted crops, low-quality crops, and farmers do not appreciate new innovations in farming. This means that these factors have the least effect in this component. Moreover, this implies that these factors have the least influence to explain the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet. Component 4 is named Policies and Legislation because the variables in this component are relevant to the policies and legislation. This implies that the oversupply of vegetables in the province is affected by the policies and legislation. Moreover, the reliability among the factors are said to be highly correlated as explained by the computed Cronbach alpha, which is equal to 96.7%. The highest factor that has the greatest effect in component 4 are no legislation, policy on crop zoning, distribution of crops per area to be planted, there is no legislation to address the oversupply of vegetables, and existence of oversupply is not the main concern of government. Crop zoning was introduced in the province of Benguet, but there is no policy as basis of implementation. As of the moment, there is no existing policy, law, ordinance and the like to address the oversupply once it occurs. Furthermore, it is said that the oversupply of vegetable is not the main concern of the government because the government also wants an affordable food for the people. Thus, oversupply of vegetables offsets the time when the prices of vegetables are high. On the other hand, the least factors that affected the oversupply of vegetable in the province of Benguet are no distribution of crops per area to be planted or no crop zoning. Policies or legislation relative to agriculture is not implemented well, and policies or legislation relative to agriculture does not favor the actual needs of the majority of farmers. There is a distribution of crops per municipality. However, the crops that are distributed for some municipalities are not applicable or cannot be grown in the place. There are crops which are mismatched on some municipalities, thus, the farmers do not want to abide with it. Moreover, the farmers are depending on what crops they know how to grow, thus their preference in planting are based from their preferences. In addition, there are actually lots of crafted policies and legislation relative to agriculture. However, it is observed that these policies and legislations are not implemented well and does not favor the actual needs of the majority of farmers. This includes the legislations on the projects or programs for the farmers. There are some mismanagement on the projects of the Department of Agriculture. Example is the pork barrel scam, the declared billions of projects on infrastructure projects, the supposed grants and assistance to farmers, etc. Component 5 has 3 factors and the reliability of the factors under this component is equal to 92.5%, which means that these factors are highly correlated with each other. This component was named Importation because, if we look into the factors under this component, it refers to the importation of vegetables. Importation of vegetable contributes to the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet. The highest factor that has the greatest effect in component 5 are due to massive import on vegetables, and imported vegetables have a better quality than that of the locally produced crops. This implies that oversupply is highly affected by the importation of vegetables. Massive importation of vegetable commodities is prominent nowadays because of the ASEAN integration and the revision of the Codified Tariff and Customs Law of the Philippines, RA 1937, wherefore the taxes of imported vegetables decreased. Thus, massive imported vegetables are coming from different countries with better quality and more economically friendly for the consumers, which affect the locally produced ones. This further implies that the imported vegetables cannot have a lower price than the locally produced crops because imported vegetables incur additional expenses on importers' end, such as shipping fees and taxes. Thus, the prices of imported vegetables are higher than the locally produced vegetables to cover such expenses. Moreover, there are standards in importing vegetables set by the importers and the government. Thus, all imported vegetables have high quality, where most of the time the quality of the imported vegetables are better than that of the locally produced vegetables. On the other hand, the factor that has the least effect in component 5 is imported vegetables are lower in price than that of the locally produced crops. This means that the price of imported vegetables does not affect much on the oversupply of vegetables. Moreover, this factor is said to have the least influence to explain the occurrence of oversupply. This further implies that the imported vegetables cannot have a lower price than the locally produced crops because imported vegetables incur additional expenses such as shipping fee and tariff. Thus, prices of imported vegetables need to be higher to cover such expenses. Component 6 is named as Economic Aspect. This component was named this way because the variables in this component refer to the trade and industry. This means that the oversupply of vegetables was affected by the commodities being utilized in the farm. Moreover, the reliability among the factors under this component is equal to 92.8%, which mean that there is a high correlation among the factors. The highest factor that has the greatest effect in component 6 are high cost of farm inputs, materials, and sudden oil price hike. This implies that the cause of oversupply is affected by the high cost of materials being used in the farm. This error prominently manifests an increasing price on all of the commodities, which also affects the farm inputs and materials. With the increasing prices of farm inputs, some farmers cannot afford to buy the proper farm inputs needed. Instead of buying, some farmers improvise, which affects their production. Therefore, it is right that the vegetables price should also increase to suffice the needs of the farm and be commensurate to have a balance in the increased price of farm inputs. On the other hand, the factor that has the least effect in component 6 is new farm inputs, materials. This means that in new technologies, farm input in the farm do not affect so much on the oversupply of vegetables. Farm inputs are relative to maintenance of farm and crop production. It does not have correspondence with the oversupply of vegetables. Also, this result also implies that this factor has the least influence to explain the occurrence of oversupply in the province of Benguet. Next result to be discussed is the extent of economic effect or impact of oversupply of vegetables to the Benguet farmers. From the occurrence of oversupply in the province of Benguet on the first quarter of calendar year 2019, 59.3% of the respondents have no income and 36.2% of the respondents said that their capital just returned or break even. Moreover, only 4.5% from the respondents say that they have an income. This implies that majority of the farmers were affected on the occurrence of the oversupply. The economic status and trend also have a great effect on the oversupply. Moving on, the succeeding results that will be discussed are on the contributory factors on the extent of impact of oversupply of vegetables to the farmers. There is an assumption that needs to be checked in this analysis. First, is the model fitting information. The likelihood ratio chi-square test was used to test whether there is a significant improvement in fit of the final model relative to the intercept-only model. Results show that the model is not statistically significant where the computed p-value is equal to 0.884. This means that there is no significant improvement in the fit of the final model over the null mode. Since this assumption failed, then we cannot further go through with the analysis. However, to satisfy and show the results of the final analysis, the analysis shall still commence. The second assumption is the goodness of fit. Results suggests that a good model fit is explained by non-significance of both Pearson and deviance having a computed p-value equal to 0.206 and 0.998, respectively. This means that the model fits the data well. This also implies that the factors are consistent with the fitted model. According to National Center for Research Methods, the goodness of fit contains the deviance and Pearson chi-square tests, which are useful for determining whether a model exhibits good fit to the data. Non-significant test results are indicators that the model fits the data well. Also, this test is intended to test whether the observed data are consistent with the fitted model. The next assumption is the pseudo R-square. Results show that the model explains 1.5% using Cox-Snell, 1.8% using Nagelkirk, and 0.9% using McFadden of the variance of the dependent variable. This means that the extent of economic impact of the oversupply to Benguet farmers is a poor predictor of the factors affecting the oversupply of vegetables. Thus, this also indicates that we fail in this assumption, thus we cannot further undergo on the analysis. However, we still be pursued the analysis to satisfy and show the results of the final analysis. On the produced model, results shows that there is no significant relationship between the extracted component as well as the profile of the respondents and the extent of economic impact of oversupply of vegetables to the Benguet farmers. This implies that there is no association and is a meager predictor on the derived components and the economic impact of oversupply of vegetable to Benguet farmers. Aside from using the Ordinql logistic regression to treat this data, I also tried to use binary logistics and discriminant analysis to see if there will be component that will be significant. However, after running these tests with multiple iterations, we found out that there are no components as well as the profile to be significant. In the light of the findings of the study, the following recommendations are proposed. Since the respondents slightly agreed on the factors that affect the oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet, in-depth study on the factors shall be undertaken. On the recommendations on the 6 extracted latent components. For the farmers' attitude and practices. Benguet farmers should change the way how they think and act. They should plant their crops in moderation, not to plant their wide farms with only one type of crop. If they think it would be a waste of the cropping period, they may consider the multiple cropping, crop rotation and crop programming. As to the postharvest and marketing approach, Since Benguet Cold Chain and Benguet Agri-Pinoy Trading Center have cold chain facilities to preserve the vegetables, the provincial LGU of Benguet should look into the expansion of these facilities to cater to the preservation needs of the vegetable produce of the province. For the perceptions in agriculture, traditional farming and natural occurrence phenomena, we should support our farmers for them to continue to produce affordable food for the country and that the need to import food decreases. By patronizing our local farmers, we help them economically. On the policies and legislation, there should be a rigid study on the crops that are applicable for each of the municipality to avoid problem on crop mismatching. As for the importation, the Philippine government should not import vegetables that can grow in the country to help the local farmers to avoid the occurrence of oversupply. Lastly, as to economic aspect, it is right that the vegetables prices should also increase to suffice the right needs of the farm and be commensurate to have a balance in the increased price of farm inputs. The time that Benguet farmers did not incur an income during the occurrence of oversupply in the first quarter of calendar year 2019 should be an eye-opener to the provincial government of Benguet to fast-track in coming up with mitigating measures to address the oversupply of vegetables in the province. Economic status of the respondents is not a good indicator to predict the occurrence of oversupply of vegetables in the province of Benguet. It is recommended that researchers who want to pursue the study on the oversupply of vegetables should look for other variable, as it is found that no components were significantly related with the occurrence of oversupply. Moreover, researchers should also try to use different tools.